Hi guys, today we're back with another art supply review, and I'm going to be reviewing the Vifart Watercolor Sketchbook by Maruman. Now, Maruman is a Japanese company that makes all sorts of sketchbooks, and I know they're really popular in Japan, and I'm not sure about in some countries, but I couldn't find a lot of reviews on the Maruman, and since I got hold of one of them, I wanted to make a review just for anyone else who was curious about getting their products. So I got the cold press or the NP surface version of this. It has rough and hot press too. And the size it's really big. It's 10 by 13 inches. And it has 18 sheets. As you can see, it's spiral and the closure is a kind of ribbon. And let's go and open it. There's a bit of Japanese info at the start. And here's the other variants they have, the rough, the NP, and the HP. Oh, and this watercolor paper is 242 GSM. It's a bit thinner than if you're used to like 300 GSM. And the paper has a bit of a cream-like color. It's not very yellowish, but it's not extra white either. Okay, so now I'm going to be doing a couple of tests with the sketchbook, and I'm using my Winsor & Newton set of 24 artist watercolor for the first test. So I'm doing a dry stroke, and then the next is a kind of gradated wash where it gets lighter when you add more water. Oh, and I have a link to the review of this watercolors if you're interested. And the next I'm going to do is going to wet an area of the paper, then I'm just gonna drop down some watercolor. And one thing that I noticed is that with the sketchbook, the watercolor has a tendency to pool in certain areas more, and some of the grain of the paper is showing more. And it could be a good or a bad thing depending on the effect you want. And next, I'm testing out my Zig Clean colors, which are water-based markers that behave similarly to watercolor as well. And the clean color blends really nicely into the paper, and you can easily dilute it without leaving marks of the original stroke, which is really handy because with some papers the clean color tends to cling really hard. And my next test is with the Copic marker, and with the Copic marker it still bleeds into the back really heavily, so you're going to want to put some scratch paper. And here I just laid down some colorless blender to see how much it lightens. If we go back to the watercolor, you can see here that this is an effect with the kind of pooling. It tends to cauliflower out, and then here you can see more of the grain showing, which could be good or bad depending on the effect you want. And here, the colorless blender lightens the marker considerably well on this paper. So this paper is also nice for markers, although be warned that the paper could suck out a lot more of the marker ink because it's so thick. And now I'm going to do a couple of demos, just some really quick sketches. You don't want to do anything too serious, just want to be really loose about it. And I'm doing a couple of League of Legends characters. So for the first character, Ari, we're going to be doing a test with just the watercolor. And I find that the watercolor tends to dry on this paper considerably quick compared to some other paper I've used, which is really good since if you want to sketch in it, you'd want something that dries really fast so you could work quicker. Color blends pretty well, and cold press has a tiny bit of texture but not too much. Of course, they have rough and hot press too, so depending on what your preferences are, you could get those. And oh, I apologize if the lighting is changing around quite a bit in this video because when I filmed it, the weather was kind of really funky that day. Like, it was really cloudy and then it suddenly became really bright, and yeah, it's a downside to using just natural lighting. Then here for the next character, I'm going to be doing a mix of, here I'm doing a wet on wet first with the Winsor & Newton watercolor. And then later on, I'll be going back with the clean color marker to add a couple of detail. with this wet on wet, I didn't experience as much of the grain showing as with the first trial, but there was still quite a bit. It might have something to do with the amount of water you put in it, or if you repeatedly do washes. And here I'm doing details with the marker and I'm blending it out. As you can see, the stroke blends out quite easily, and using the clean colors is really ideal for this sketchbook. So if you like using those, this is really for you. I think the sketchbook could also be good for other media such as color pencil and pastels maybe. And here for the last test, I'm doing everything in Copic marker just to see how it performs. And the marker blends really well on this paper, but the paper sucks up a ton of the ink. So you're gonna want to have some refills handy, especially in the future, or yeah, and the nib kind of gets worn down by the texture of the paper. But this is still really good paper to work on because blending is really easy with this. You just need a lot more ink. So the Maruman Vifart is a really good watercolor sketchbook. It's not exactly as thick as other more available sketchbooks, which are 300 GSM, but it takes water quite well. It only buckled a little bit and it went back to normal in a while. And I wish this product would be more readily available because I really don't see it sold in a lot of places besides Japan and maybe some other countries. Yeah, this has been a really nice product. So if you like this video, show some love to the thumbs up down below and subscribe to my channel. I do weekly art videos, some speed paints, and sometimes some product reviews like this. And thanks for watching!